Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still with you this morning and our continued coverage of the recent developments regarding the U.S.-Israeli-Iran war. And today, this morning, we're very much delighted to be joined in the studio by our guest, Dr. Maryam Waheed, the Associate Professor of Political Science, Cairo University. Dr. Maryam, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Maryam, and today. And of course, let's start by some of the recent developments. Specifically, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from the Iranian President, Masoud Pezeshkian, and they discussed the recent developments, and the President stressed Cairo's unequivocal condemnation of the attacks and absolute rejection of the Iranians targeting Arab states and Gulf states. How do you see this call, and how do you read the messages behind the discussions between the two leaders?
The discussion was regarding Egypt's stance towards the war and Iran's retaliatory strikes towards the Gulf states, based on the principles in international of friendly relations between people in the same neighborhood, and also that has been that the Arab states have not intervened at all in this conflict.
Yes.
By the U.S. and Israel against so the stress Egyptian government that it's very important that we maintain the importance of state sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Yes.
And also protection of civilians, because these are principles enshrined in international. And the targeting of civilians, even if it's not specific, like big war crimes, but this is not okay. So
yes.
That's...
Yes. Now, Dr. Maryam, to what extent does this call really demonstrate Egypt's active diplomatic engagement to reach political resolution? From the very beginning, Egypt has maintained that military action is the last thing that and it will absolutely damage security and stability in the region, which it has, as we're seeing. Yeah. So how do you see, this call demonstrating Egypt's call for diplomatic resolution to this situation?
Yes, Egypt has played a strong role in diplomacy
yes.
and mediation in a lot of wars that unfortunately happened in
yes.
the Gaza war and later on the attacks on Lebanon. So we're witnessing also attacks from the Israeli side on southern Beirut and southern Lebanon, and these attacks are residential buildings, not military sites or any kind of Hezbollah places also, or the locations of Hezbollah. Also specifically the displacement of civilians in southern Beirut and southern Lebanon. So all of these are not congruent with international law, and Egypt also has played this role in mediation in accordance with the Chapter 6 of the UN Charter about the Pacific settlement of international disputes. So we were hoping that everything will be held in negotiations first, or even mediation, but not to reach to the extent of war and the escalation we're witnessing right now.
Dr. Maryam, what role does Egypt still play in this regard? Does it have a possible plan or scenario, communication for broader regional efforts to reach a resolution, in your opinion? Are you seeing any kind of plan in a way? Does this call indicate something to this effect, in your opinion?
Yes, so there's strong diplomatic efforts trying to mediate between the different parties in conflict right now, and trying to find, for example, specifically regarding the Gulf states, because they're being attacked in Iraq, also in Iraq and Lebanon. So not only Bahrain or United Arab Emirates, but also in Iraq and also in Lebanon. So that's why the Minister of Foreign Affairs has also insisted that there should be a kind of Arab effort also to counter these attacks, not only in this war, but also afterwards, if there's any attack on any Arab country, that there could be kind of connection or shared Arab forces to counter any attacks.
Indeed. Dr. Maryam, let me ask you, this is a difficult question, but what is the risk, in your opinion, if this conflict continues to escalate, and how do you see regional powers working towards preventing this?
Yeah, so we have witnessed that Russia has presented like a ceasefire, trying a proposal to the UN, but this was not passed. So trying to find a ceasefire agreement would be really good, best solution. But of course we're witnessing the past 2 days, so there's US strikes or missile strikes on Kharj, which is a really essential island for Iran in terms of being an oil hub. So this is also a very bad development in the region. And also regarding the effect of the war on global trade,
yes,
and this
maritime movement,
maritime navigation, of course. So all of these will actually damage the world economy, not specifically
and
the Iranian.
Yes, and do you think, Dr. Maryam, that the economic repercussions of this war could be motive or reason enough to reach a negotiation to stop the war, in your opinion? Do you think that this could play a role?
Yes, I think
How
it's,
so?
Yeah, it will, regarding the time period. So we're witnessing all over the world there's the rise of petroleum and also other goods and services also around the world. So the rise of airplane tickets, a lot of things are actually being affected by this war. So for example, China, I don't mean that it will enter the war directly,
yes,
but
it has an economic part as well.
It can have a role even in mediation.
Yes, yes. Right. And now, what steps, in your opinion, since you mentioned, of course, China and all the other countries that are being directly influenced, even though they are not directly involved in this conflict, what role do you think they could play in order to mediate or negotiate?
So there are calls specifically trying, and also like the Russian proposal for the UN to cease fire. And so these are, I think in the UN Security Council there will be also more proposals in the upcoming period trying to find a ceasefire agreement, that the US and Israel are insisting to complete the war, trying to find out a kind of a more like in any, like you're trying to find out more benefits war and more rewards. So trying to shift, also to transform the regime completely in Iran. But for example, the European leaders have tried to mention to the US that that changes have been taken place in Iran because of the war. And you can leave the upcoming period for the Iranian people to have self-determination. So that's any right in the international relations, that each country has sovereignty and has people have the right of self-determination according to the International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights and the International Covenant
and how was this received, Dr. Maryam? I mean, it's,
till now,
the reception is also the main problem, really.
Yeah, so the European leaders, and specifically, for example, in Spain, leaders, Spain also has mentioned, the Prime Minister has mentioned that this war is a kind of illegal in terms of international law. But till now, of course, we're continuing. If you would just follow the news today and yesterday, so Israel is attacking Lebanon, and also the U.S. is continuing its missile strikes on
But you said, you know, that the war will not end until Israel and the United States achieve whatever they were targeting or their aims. But this has kind of shifted and changed since the war began. We've seen different, you know, addresses by the U.S. President Trump saying the war is almost over. No, we're still capable of going on. But on the other side, there's Iran. That's also had a very quick response and saying, well, actually, we're not going to as well give in or end the war from our side till we've reached what we are hoping to do. So how do you see, you know, this tit for tat when it comes to discussions related to reaching an end to the attacks?
Of course, it's not in the benefit of Iran that it's the attacks on Tehran, the attacks, so it's kind of retaliatory attacks to the U.S. and Israel attacks. So I think Iran doesn't want to continue this war if the U.S. and Israel stop the war. So it's like, it's kind of like retaliatory attacks, not just beginning to launch these attacks. Specifically, I guess, Iran, like civilians in Iran, for example, the targeting of an Iranian school, of the girls' school. So this is considered a war crime. So that's not to the benefit of the Iranian people by and large. But of course, Iran is responding. So of course, it's trying to pressure by all its cars and all the things that it can do, like closing the Hormuz Strait. But at the same time, there's call with the Chinese side, and so trying to also that some ships will be allowed to pass if you follow our rules. So that's
so it's kind of a bargaining chip, really, for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're
right, Dr. Maryam, on the other side, as you mentioned, of course, Israel continues to attack Lebanon, and Israel has recently threatened to target Lebanese infrastructure as well. How would you elaborate more on this, and what does it mean when it comes to attacking the infrastructure of a state as a whole?
Yes, of course, all of these attacks are in violation of international law and Geneva Conventions, of attacking civilians specifically, and also attacking the UN forces in Lebanon, also in southern Lebanon. So that these attacks, of course, on the UN agencies and on the Lebanese people, and also the displacement. So the Israeli government has sent like emergency calls and alarms for the Lebanese people to leave their homes. That's not Hezbollah, that's the civilian people in Lebanon.
Yes.
So that's, of course, considered violations, grave violations of international law.
And of course, the civilian count of the victims that we're seeing, the injuries, the displacement of hundreds of thousands. How does this also further worsen the situation for Lebanon?
The Lebanese people are kind of used in the Lebanese civil war, unfortunately, to such attacks. And of course, it's escalating. That's really bad for the Lebanese people, seeing those incidents every day. And also, that's after the Gaza war and after the Board of Peace plan presented by President Trump. So people were trying to, or hoping for a better future in terms of having more peace in the region. So unfortunately, everybody is thinking now of how to hold this peace plan after all these escalations that have been taken.
And in further escalations, Israel has even gone as far as to attack hospitals, medical practices, medical practitioners as well, further escalating and worsening the situation. How do you see, what is their verification or explanation for such attacks? How do they justify these attacks, in your opinion?
So I can start with the Iranian war specifically. So the justification or the pretext mentioned by the U.S. government, the Iranian nuclear file, but and also that the human rights situation specifically for women. But starting the war by attacking a girls' school, so how does this align with the human rights movement and the human rights major arguments? And also the attacks on Lebanon is under the pretext of that it's Hezbollah attacks over the Israeli government. But we witnessed the attacks are all on the residential buildings of Lebanese people.
Right. Doctor, you mentioned a very important thing is the reasoning has changed. So first it's to help the Iranian women, or to assist the Iranian, to get rid of the Iranian regime. And recently U.S. President Trump said that the U.S. and Israel might even execute an operation to seize Iranian uranium as well. So how do you see this kind of shift again in the reasoning behind the war?
Yeah, and the attacks also on the oil refineries that caused acid rain.
Yes.
So all of these are
another global, warming problem on its own.
Affecting environmental rights of people all over the world, not merely in Iran, but affecting the environment as a whole. So of course, with the work that it continues, we'll the best solution is trying to find mediation efforts by strong middle powers in the region and also superpowers in the whole world, trying to find this balance and presenting a proposal in the UN to try to ceasefire at any time soon, hopefully. And also trying to discuss the major points of tension in the region and trying to find a solution that actually is best for all. So in negotiations, it's usually a win-win situation. So you can't find, so the US and Israel are trying to think only in terms of a zero-sum situation, which is normally in wars. But you have to find a kind of common ground and trying to find a kind of a win-win situation. So actually, US and Israel have achieved a lot of what they want. In Iran with some changes, but they want to get rid of overall of the Revolutionary Guard forces, which is actually really hard, and actually it's causing a lot of problems in the region as a whole. So Iran also has threatened that it will attack other, like oil refineries in the region if its own oil refineries are being attacked. So this is more and more escalation.
And what does this mean for Gulf countries?
Yeah, that's the neighboring, that doesn't mention specifically which states.
But that is what it implies.
Yes.
So where do you see the Gulf countries from this? I mean, this is, as you said, they had no direct role to play at all in any of this conflict or this war, but they are bearing the brunt of this conflict.
So in the Gulf countries, I think they can play a role in mediation. I think they, or in the Arab League as a whole, there can be a discussion of trying to limit these attacks and trying to find a solution to end it completely. So that's what they're trying to do right now, because there were attacks on Bahrain, there were attacks on the United Arab Emirates, and also on Qatar, and so
Kuwait.
And Kuwait as well. So trying specifically because like it's about civilians, but maybe Iran thinks that Gulf countries can have a kind of pressure on the United States of America. So that's why they're doing these attacks. But I think that they are limited in, they're like, in international law we call it like disproportionate, so it's like it's not that
equal footing.
It's not equal footing. So I guess also that Iran, the best thing is not to launch any attacks, because it will not also be successful in terms of the war, so the war results. So the negotiations and diplomacy and a kind of even conciliation or maybe international arbitration can also play a role in this war. So, or trying to limit this war and to have a ceasefire agreement. So
and that would be the best case scenario, in your opinion. Right. So now, are there any diplomatic attempts now from these Gulf countries that are under attack as well themselves to try and reach, you know, a situation where they're sitting down to negotiate?
I think in the Arab League there are discussions right now taking place between Egypt, and the Gulf countries, so trying to find a kind of agreement in the upcoming period, and also trying to find a proposal to the UN trying to limit these attacks, because actually what was agreed upon in the UN that Iran must stop its attacks on the Gulf countries.
Right. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. We've run out of time, but I'd like to thank you very, very much, Dr. Maryam Waheed, our Associate Professor of Political Science from Cairo University. Thank you very much for your time and for coming in this morning to our studios here at Nile TV International.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen.